what can we look for as we're moving forward? Because, you know, to put this plan out there to 2040, what will people actually see, and what are some of the indicators, the key indicators?
Yeah, one of the exciting things about CMAP and putting the organization together was that there was, from the old NIPSI organization, one of the things that they did provide, which is very excellent, was a statistical and analytical ability to provide local governments, and for that much, anybody, with the type of information that would be useful to the community, whether it's demographics. But we're going to take it a step beyond that. You know, with the help of the Chicago Community Trust, we're going to set up a website called Chicago Indicators, metrochicago.org.
Okay.
And what towns, again, it's going to take cooperation, though, of the towns to be on board with us. We can't give out information if they don't give it to us.
Okay.
So each town is going to be asked if they want to be a part of this, and to begin to measure, to take a look at another keystone of our plan is redevelopment, infill, taking a look at what's out there right now, and using that from a land planning aspect of how we can improve that. And that will be, again, whether a town implements this plan, begins a revitalization of its downtown, or revitalization of a neighborhood,
right,
is that to work with us and saying, hey, you know, we just got through with X number of project, you know, put it on the books.
Okay.
When it comes to transportation, you know, whether or not we've been able to do from a simple dial-a-ride to whether or not we've been able to bring in additional pace transportation aspects to our region, again, suburban to suburban,
right,
or whether if you're on a metro line right now, whether there's been an improved parking lot or enhanced transportation center. Those are the kind of indicators that we'll take a look at.
Okay.
You know, again, we have almost close to 100,000 acres of underdeveloped land right now in our metropolitan region. Not new land, underdeveloped land. And I think as we go forward, whether it's on a 5 or a 10-year basis, we'll take a look at a percentile over those increments of years as to what's being done. Obviously, our goal by 2040 is to have 100% of that.
Okay.
That goes for open lands and parks. And we don't necessarily have to talk about acres of new parks. You go into either my community or some of these other communities and take a look at whether or not they're going to be able to acquire smaller parks, you know, 1 acre parks or half-acre parks. But how much are they going to put into areas where they don't have any at all? Again, it's a quality of life issue of a community that would attract people to it. So again, those are the type of indicators that they'll work with us, and we'll be able to let them know at any time. And the transparency of that is that anybody will be able to go online and find out. So obviously that's good for a corporation coming into the South region and saying, you know, here's X number of space available from Phoenix to Blue Island to you know, to Palos Hills or Oak Lawn. We intend to work a lot closer with towns and giving us that type of information for us to work with them to attract that type of business.
So the transparency, you want it to be on a voluntary basis, because obviously you can obtain that information, I mean, using FOIA, which we you know, probably don't want to do, but you're asking them to help you create this transparency by participating cooperatively.
Jeff, our agency, there's no other agency in the history of this metropolitan area that has been as transparent as we have.
Okay.
I mean, you can go online to our website and download minutes from our meeting from 5 years ago. Every conversation that's taken place, the initial year and a half of getting public input as to how people saw the region. How do you see you know, where you want to live and the type of quality of life issues that you see in making a decision on where to live. So we've been transparent from day one, and we intend to move forward in the same manner.
Good. So the efficient governance aspect then is really about providing information, the pure information to investors, to entrepreneurs, to anyone that's looking at this region. So I mean, because when I saw the transparency piece of this, you know, I understood it, but help the viewing audience understand efficient governance connected to the increased transparency inside of local, and then making sure that that is something that is going to be a major part of this plan going forward, and why that's important to the region.
Well, I think any community in dealing with their citizens should be already transparent, but in the area of efficient governance, it's probably the most exciting and challenging aspect of this plan, because we talk about being more acting in a better use of the tax dollars that come into our you know, into our communities. So we talk about what's going to happen down the road. merging services. It's already taking place right now. The last 4 or 5 years, towns have, through the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, begun taking a look at studies how we can make a better use and efficiency, because there's going to be less tax dollars down the road, and people are demanding more of local governments to be more efficient with their tax dollars. 28 years ago, we formed Southwest Central Dispatch. We took 10 communities at the time, took 7 or 8 dispatchers out of each of our communities, put them under one roof with a total of 7 or 8 dispatchers. It saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we all share in the costs on an annual basis, but it's at a third of what we would have paid if we kept those dispatchers individually under our roof. That's an example. And we're not the only one. There are other agencies around the metro area have done that. But we need to look now beyond that into police and fire services, into public works services, into having coordinated or to eliminate duplicity possibly of other services that we provide to our town that could be shared with other towns. That's a great challenge under governance, and which is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is taxes itself and where we're going in the future with taxation. Yeah, and you know, we probably would have to set up another show to talk about that, but I am glad to see that at least that the CMAP addressed the fact that the tax disparities that exist amongst the 7 regions, 7 counties needs to be addressed. And because there are some disparities. I mean, you look at Cook County, you know, out the door, the taxing, the Cook County taxing rate puts it at a competitive disadvantage to anyone looking to make an investment in this area. And where are the future dollars coming, which is a key to the reasoning why we talk about better efficiency? Because if you know, right now metropolitan areas in this country generate close to 78 to 80% of the gross national product, not only to the state but to the federal government. And we strongly believe moving forward that the state and federal government better taking a look at who's providing the revenue, who's creating, where's the economic engine? It's in the metropolitan area, and that's why this disparity of for example, in the state of Illinois in transportation dollars, we only receive 45% of state transportation dollars, 55% goes downstate, and yet we generate again close to 70% of the gross national. And there's a disparity that's going to take some mind changing in both Springfield and Washington. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge. You know, one of the highlights in terms of human capital was addressing the equitable opportunities to gain critical skills that's needed. And when we talk about the property tax, we talk about the disparities that exist in terms of those property taxes. It creates a disparity in terms of how the education assets are funded. And so I do hope that there's some plans to address that as well, particularly for Cook County. Absolutely. We intend over the next year to form a task force among metropolitan leaders involving groups from education, from local governments, from counties, from townships, to sit down and from the private sector to the business sector to take a look at that disparity that exists right now. You know, even 8 or 9 years ago, the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, again, mayors, we're the ones that came forward with the concept and idea and change of the state formula for education and property taxes. Senator or State Representative Miller, I think, was one who sponsored a similar bill downstate about this inequity that exists, and we believe in it, that funding should be based upon a formula across the board. You know, not depending on the richness of a community. So we got a few minutes left, and you've got a wealth of information, and you know, my questions are critical in these last. So one of the things I would like for you to do is to just share what you see in terms of going forward on this plan. If you're going to roll, if viewing audience is looking and listening to you, what would you share with them? I know that one of the first steps is to educate people about the plan, to get the word out there, have them to read the plan, download it. But after we create this knowledge and people have information about the plan, what's step 2 for you? I mean, what's going to happen after that? The work will always continue. You have change of people in government, and so there's always a re-education. But I think once a community sets up a so-called master plan, and a plan is based upon Go to 2040, there are quality of life issues, jobs, housing, parks. People want to believe, every mayor wants to believe, when you go home at night, or you as a resident go home at night, you want to live in Navarro. You want to have a tranquil community, and those are the kind of things that we think this plan can help a community build towards. One of the challenge Jeffrey Bear was at our panel discussion. He led the panel
Right,
discussion at our launch, and he kind of threw out the question, who's going to be the next Daniel Burnham? And you know what I say is that who in each community is going to be the Daniel Burnham? It's not just one Daniel Burnham. There's 284 communities and counties out there. Who's going to be the Daniel Burnham of Zion or of Robbins or of Palos Hills? Who's going to step forward and work with us to be the Daniel Burnham of their community?
Right. And as such, what role do citizens play in terms of this plan now? I mean, you know, my job is to help people become educated and to become knowledgeable what this plan is. And then after we get this knowledge, what role are they going to play?
I think, again, our agency has been the only agency in the history of this metropolitan area from day one that immediately went to the public and asked them to be a part of this. Asked them about their thoughts on what they saw as a vision of how they would like to live in the future. And again, obviously the better transportation, jobs nearby, livable communities, parks. So they have been a part of this from day one, and they will continue to be a part of it going forward. It's going to be them working with us and going to local government and saying, hey, are you facing this challenge? What are you doing to make my community better? So citizens are going to be essential in support of this plan.
Good. And I think that as they start considering candidates, one of the things I'm going to encourage them to do is ask them a question, well, how do you think our village or town should embrace the Go to 20 plan? If they get that deer in the headlights look.
Hopefully they've begun by cracking the book, as they say, right? You're an educator, you know what it is. You got to open the book up first.
Open the book, right. So I hope that they do that, and we'll get people. One of the things on people's minds is competing with some of our global competition, and not to just isolate two foreign countries, but China and India are two that's in the minds of many right now. How do you think that this plan positions us to compete with two of the strongest competitors of the United States right now?
In fact, right now the President of the United States is over in China and the Far East talking about that type of challenge that the U.S. faces. Again, we live in one of the greatest metropolitan areas in this country. We have an advantage over many other areas in this country because we do have a core of workforce. We do have a great educational system, and we need to continue to improve those two aspects to attract that type of global economy to our region. The framework is all there. It's a matter of tweaking it and putting everybody on the same page and all giving the same message as one voice, one vision, that you come here, we'll work with you.
It's a shared vision.
Absolutely.
What you're trying to do is get everyone aligned, headed in the same direction towards 2040, and to accomplish many of the concepts that sense out of the plan. We have 1 minute left or so, and I want to find out from you, what do you envision for the region looking like by 2040? If you pick any time period between now and 2040, pick one, and let the viewing audience know what the crystal ball looks like.
Well, I would think even in 10 years or 15 years that, I would like to look at my own community and say, you know what, he did a great job. You move into Palos Hills, you've got all the great amenities of transportation. You've got housing opportunities at any level that you want to go to. You've got the ability to travel from my town to downtown or around the suburban areas. You've got parks where you can walk to or take a bike and within walking distance go to those type of places. I think a livable community, quality of life issue, those are all key. And I'm hoping not only my town, but this region, the entire metropolitan region, can think that way and build their communities towards that goal.
Sure. And what I would like to see is that you can see the jobs. The people actually come to our area to actually not only to work, to live, but also to work 21st century jobs also. So that's one of the things that I hope that we make happen out of the plan, as well as where we do invite investors from around the world to come to this region.
We have an exciting metropolitan area and more exciting things down the road.
Good. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure.
Jeff, Mike.
And I'm excited. I think that the CMAP organization, it's obvious that they have quality people that are wrapped around this plan, good minds and people that have a like vision. And I wish you all well. And if there's any if there's ever a time that you want to come back on and talk about anything that you all are doing, please feel free to do so.
I appreciate it. You talked about the indicators, and we hope to hopefully come back with you in short periods of time to tell you the success stories.
Good, good, good. Well, thank you very much, Jerry. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for being with us today. I hope that you've enjoyed as much as I have the conversation that Jerry and I have had. And again, as we're going through this educational process of getting to know more about the Go to 2040 plan, it's important